Good afternoon, garden friends, and welcome to my first question and answer session. I was so excited to get some of the questions that some of my subscribers have sent in. And one of the things that I'm going to start doing is once a month put out on my community page an opportunity for individuals to ask me questions, give a week's time, and then I will end up doing a video based off of the questions that I had received. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So the first question is from Zach. He's in zone 4, and his question is, what was the first flowers you planted that really got you into gardening, and what are some of your flowers you are planning on adding to next season? I so love this question. As most of you know, if you have seen my garden, I have roses galore. I would say roses was my first swing at gardening. I currently have, I think it's 43 different roses, whether they are knockouts, whether they are Eden climbers from heirloom. I also got some mini rose bushes that I keep in pots. So I would say, Zach, my favorite that got me going was the roses. Now, what am I going to be doing for next season? I have gotten really drawn to the scabious pincushions because they come in an array of colors and textures that I think you can have those pops of color that just make your garden just be so very cohesive. So that is one of the plants that I am going to be focusing on next season, because I am going to once again be growing those from seeds like I did last year. And then the other one is the hibiscus. I have been seeing hibiscus in other individuals that I follow, and I just so love the pop of color, the depth that they end up giving into the garden. So between the pincushions and the hibiscus will probably be the focus of next year's garden. So thank you so much, Zach, for that question. Okay, so the next question is from Barbara, who is in zone 7B. And her question is, what do you need to enrich red clay soil? Okay, so as you guys know, with me being down here in Georgia, and I do believe also South Carolina has the red clay, that is no easy task because it is so heavy and compact, and it really does not hold on to water. If you've ever noticed in your garden, especially if you don't amend the soil, water will puddle, and one of the things that I have found that helps with me addressing the Georgia clay is I use a combination of manure, compost, leaves, and also conditioner. Now, one of the things that I have found is, you still want to use some of the clay because that is the native soil, and we do have plants that are native to Georgia and in whatever other areas that you live in that may end up having the clay. But by amending the soil, what you're doing is you're helping, your plants end up flourishing even more so. Like I said, even though they may be native, to your area, when you amend the soil, you will see a huge difference in how your flowers are flourishing. And so I would recommend utilizing that combination to help break up the compactness of the clay soil, and then also test it. I'm more on feel because I like working with my hands in the dirt. And based off of the consistency of how the soil feels when I'm mixing in all of those other amenders, that ends up letting me know, okay, you know what, this is good. But then you also want to test your soil, because as you amend it, you're going to change the composite of the soil. So I would also recommend that once you do the amending, to test your soil to make sure whatever you're putting in there, it is also going to flourish. All right, well, thank you so much, Barbara, for that question. Okay, so my next question is from Patty. She too is in Zone 7 in Cobb County. And her question is, my black-eyed Susies have flopped over. Who hasn't that happened to? Do you ever prune yours to keep them from flopping, or is this a sign of over-fertilizing? Well, Patty, it's a combination of both. Yes, I do prune mine back, because if you look at when the black-eyed Susies initially, come up and they're in full glory, you will notice that as the flowers start to die back, they will end up tipping over. But also, if you are over fertilizing them, that will contribute to them tipping over. Black-eyed Susies do not need a lot of fertilizer or a lot of water because they are drought tolerant. Overwatering also can make them tip over. But I have found that usually around September, which I actually just recently did, cut mine down by half, because I could see that I had new shoots that were coming up. And then this is the thing too, if you don't, at least at first flush, cut them back, the new stuff will end up dying because they get so full that it won't allow enough sunlight to get to those. So I usually cut mine back in September so that I can have another flush for the rest of the fall season, but then also have some little tidbits for the birds. I usually will leave those up throughout winter, and then when I'm cleaning up my bed, come spring, cut it all the way down to where I see, new growth coming through. But yeah, I would recommend that, you do cut them down mid-September. You can also dry the flowers that you end up cutting down. I mean, I think the little black heads that are on them are very nice for like flower arrangements and just to give you that texture to it. But yeah, you do not need to be fertilizing your black-eyed Susies. I have them all through my yard, and I don't think I've ever fertilized them, and they end up doing very, very nicely. So thank you, Patty, for your question. All right, the next question. I'm so excited that everybody had so many questions, to ask. And you know what? And this is the thing. I say it all the time. My channel is about learning from each other. Do I profess to know everything? Nope. But I choose to, surround myself with individuals that know different aspects of gardening, because that's how you learn. So I'm just loving this. So this next question is from Sue, and she lives in Zone 8. This one's a good one too. She needs to replace a tree that died in her side flower bed. She's concerned planting where the tree originally was could affect something new. She says she has other plants around where the tree was and they're doing well. What can I do when planting in the area to promote a healthy tree flowering bush? She says, I have not yet decided what to plant just yet. Also, in this heat, when is a good time to plant? Very good question, Sue. Okay, so the first one, a couple things that I would need to know. Was the tree that you ended up removing diseased. If it was, it has been stated, just different things that I've read, is that if you end up having a, plant or a tree that has, died due to disease, that, you try to make sure that you get all the dirt out of the area, but then don't plant anything there for a year to allow Mother Nature to do its thing with self-healing. But if it hasn't or isn't diseased, a lot of it depends upon what you choose, to put in that area when it comes to flowers or a shrub. Now, there are some very hardy evergreens. A lot of that depends on what do you want to put in that area. Are you looking for an evergreen that's going to get tall? Are you looking for a shrub that just may end up staying 3 to 5 foot tall in the same distance? Or are you looking at, putting some smaller plants in there? So a lot of it depends upon what you want to put in there. The other thing I would recommend, if you got concerns, take a sample up to the extension building and see if they would test, just to make sure that there is no bacteria or whatever it was that ended up possibly killing your other tree. So those would be some things that I would do before I made a major investment in putting a nice size, shrub or tree back in that area. In regards to your other question, when is the best time to start planting? Okay, I sometimes push the envelope. And what I mean by that is I end up getting something and we'll put it in the ground, maybe not at the opportune time, but then I take those extra steps of making sure that I'm watering it. If I need to put like a little shade protection over it, I will do that. But fall is the ideal time to plant new items, whether it is bulbs that you are planting for spring blossoms, if it is trees or shrubs. Autumn time is the best time to do that, because this is the thing. And if you haven't noticed, with us having, this hot weather, even some of our established shrubs are feeling, the pressure of the heat that we have. So just think about if you ended up planting a new plant in the dead of heat, the likelihood of it flourishing or surviving and not struggling is probably going to be minimal. Minimal if it ends up happening at all. So, like I said, fall is the best time when we have the cooler temperatures. I know even with some of my bulbs, I'm not getting those until October due to our zone, because I'm not going to plant them until November with the goal of them coming up in the spring. I have 2 evergreen trees. I'm not planting those until probably the end of September, October, for that simple reason. They've been in pots pretty much all summer, but I want to be able to get them in the ground. And then if you end up planting them, during the fall, what that does is it allows them to get acclimated to the area that you are putting them in. And then also when the cooler temperatures, come upon us, it won't be like a bad shock for them. So fall is the best time, and based off of your zone, that would be more of the October, November, and even with some December to be able to plant. But definitely when the weather is a lot cooler, unless you want to take those extra steps, that I do, the watering, the covering, provide shade. So good luck, Sue, on your new planting area. Hit me up on my YouTube channel or my Instagram if you have additional questions that you have. Okay, all right, best of luck to you. All right, so the next question, this is also someone that is in zone 7B. It is Civ, and the question is, my pin cushions have really suffered in the intense heat, and one has even died back. Will it come back next year? As I stated in my opening, based off of Zach's question about my favorite, pin cushions are very, very hardy. Now, you're right. We have been having some intense heat in our area. And this is the thing. As long as you are watering them, and then the other thing is, how recently did you plant them? You know, when you plant new flowers and then we end up having major heat, you have to take those extra steps to protect them, especially if they're small and not quite established. One of the things that I do on a regular basis, with pin cushions, when they are done with their blooms, because the heads on them will get brown, or even I had a couple that were black or the deep burgundy, to where they get like straw, and that's the time that you need to cut them back. That's the thing too. You have to cut your pin cushions back, because if you don't, what you're doing is you're allowing all the energy for building stronger roots to be going to something that is dying off. So usually once a week, I am going through my garden and snipping off all the spent pincushion flowers, so that, like I said, more of the energy is going to the root of the flower, so that it can get stronger and then provide you more growth. And then this is the thing too. I will have pin cushions all season long. Aside from the crazy frost we had early this year, the year before last, my pin cushions lasted year around. Now, it did not have as many flowers on it, but the greenery was nice and healthy. So it's about maintenance on your plant, and seeing the signs that your plant will tell you. Your plant will tell you, what it needs. If it's wilting, if it's getting too much sun. And, like I said, if it's a new plant, and relatively small, I take those extra precautions of providing some type of shade cover, for them. I think the one year I sat there and I took the stakes that I would use to hold up like my hydrangeas, what would they're probably maybe about 4 foot tall. And what I would do is take some of the weed blocker and make like a little tent over top of it, so that it could still get some sun, but it's filtered sun. It's not that direct hot heat is out there, So Civ, best of luck with you on that. But do know this, like I said, pin cushions are hardy, unless it is dried out to the root, that plant will come back for you. So thank you again for that question. All right, the next question from Keisha. Boy, I got a lot of sun. I mean, and and this is the thing. I don't know about any other area, but I do know here we have been having some high heat consistently. I think last year it would be, you have a couple hot days and it cooled down. You have a couple hot days. This heat has been like consistent. Okay, so Keisha's question is, I get a lot of sun in my front yard, and even my shrubs are dying in the heat. What should I do, or should I replant high sun tolerant plants there? Well, Keisha, you could do either or. Like I said, because we've had some extremely hot weather down here, it's taking its toll even on plants that are acclimated, to the soil or have been, in the ground, or established, in the ground, because the heat has been really intense. And this is my thing. You can pull those shrubs out. I am a believer in repurpose, reuse. If the shrubs that you have in there you are seeing are struggling, then that would tell me maybe they need to be moved to an area that still gets sun, but not that direct sun that you might be getting coming on your front in your front yard. You can get some plants that are heat tolerant. I am a fan of the sunshine ligustrum because they are evergreen. They are drought tolerant. I will say this, if you don't have the time to baby them, if you get the small ones, I would suggest that you get the larger sunshine ligustrums, and during the cooler weather, get those guys planted, because they are heat tolerant and they are drought resistant. When they are smaller, and with any smaller plant, you have to dedicate more time to babying them and nurturing them so that they can end up being successful. But yeah, if you're getting that high afternoon on, then your shrubs are telling you, hey, I may need to be in an area that does get some sun, but not that direct sun. So once again, best of luck with you. Like I said, I would recommend the sunshine ligustrum to put in your front yard. Like I said, if it is high intense, wait until October time frame to do any type of fall planting. That will give them enough time to get acclimated, and then you should end up having a shrub in your front yard that would do fantastic. And then you can always accentuate those with some heat tolerant, hardy perennials. I'm a lover of perennials. Plant it once and keep it moving, and then just use the annuals to add that pop of color. Well, thanks, Keisha, for your question. Okay, so the next question is what? Oh, this is from Ron Howard. The question is, what is a good weed killer to use? Every time I think I got rid of them, a few weeks later, they pop up again, and there's more. He is in zone 6. Now, this depends on what kind of weeds you're talking about. Are you talking about weeds that may be in your flower bed, or are you talking about weeds that are in your lawn? What I'll do is I'll give you some suggestions for both. We'll start with the lawn. I take pride in how green and lush our grass is. We have Bermuda grass. And anybody that knows anything about Bermuda grass, when it goes dormant, it looks like straw. That's just it. The fact, Ron, that you were in zone 6 would lead me to believe that you have Kentucky bluegrass, which I love. And there are things that you can do to help either reduce or get rid of weeds altogether. One of the things that we do, we are on a very strict schedule of utilizing pre and post emergent. And this is the reason for that is you're going to have weeds no matter what you do, unless you have somebody that comes out and it's like hand picking them, out of your grass. But with that combination of the pre and post emergent, the pre-emergent keeps the seeds from germinating of the weeds that you may not have caught. The post will end up killing off the weeds that you have. So that's why we use a combination of those two 4 times a year, because especially with the Bermuda grass here, it is very tough. It has a life of its own. So we use that treatment to help keep our grass nice and lush. And then we also fertilize it. The other thing that we do, we have it aerated every year. What the aeration does, it allows air circulation to get into the soil, because just like every other living thing, you need air and oxygen to breathe, and that helps give air circulation to your grass. One of the things that I also do after it's aerated, I then fertilize. Use like a liquid fertilizer on the lawn, just so that it can get down into, get to the roots, so we can have that lush green lawn. Now, if it is your flower beds, and I will say this, I have always just tilled and take the grass out and plant your plants and mulch, and you end up still having tons of weeds in there. I follow this other YouTuber. It is Jay's Garden Journal. I'll put her link in the description. And she does sheep mulching. And I will say this. The fact that we have Bermuda grass can come up through anything, because we have tried the weed blocking fabric, we've tried like weed killer, and I'm not like real big on that. I'd rather just go out there and pick it and what have you. But by utilizing the sheep mulching technique, Ron, I'll tell you this. Do I have weeds in my flower beds? Yep. But it's just a handful. It's not like it used to be. And I actually did a video myself, which I'll put it in the description of what that process is. And then this is the thing too. They state that tilling is not really good, for the soil. And you just think about, the things that live underneath the soil. When you're taking a tiller to it, probably killing it like worms, which are good, for the soil and your garden. But I would recommend, if you're talking about your flower bed, take out all the mulch that you have, or a layer of it, and put that cardboard down and wet it. Put the topsoil on it and plant your plants, and you are good to go. And one more thing, Ron, if you are talking about your grass, if you end up having someone cut your lawn, that could be a contributing factor to you seeing more weeds. 9 times out of 10, lawn services, after each job they do, they are not hosing down the base of the lawnmower. They're coming directly to their next home, to cut the grass. Weeds can travel from one yard to another if you are not cleaning the underside of your lawnmower. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, if you're having someone cut, your grass, more than likely they are also contributing to weeds coming into your yard. Thanks again for that question. Okay, so the next question is from Monica, who lives in zone 5B to 8A, and that's Tennessee. So they have a huge range for them, for their zones. And her question is, what advice do you have for a new plant mom? Okay. Depends on what your plants are. Are you talking about outside plants or inside plants? We'll start with inside plants. If you are looking for low maintenance, easy plants to, for inside to get yourself started, always cactus, succulents. These are plants that do well not getting watered a lot. I know for me, I like plants that are, especially for the inside, that are low maintenance. There's the ZZ plant. There is a ficus. Ficus trees are really easy, to grow. Now, if you're talking about outside, you got a day, because and a lot of it depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking about starting with pots, or if you have a raised garden bed that you want to just start getting your feet wet. You say you're a new gardening mom, so I would suggest things, any type of plant that does not consume a lot of your time, especially with you being new. A couple of them that I can just off the cuff think of are yellow coral sedums, pretty much anything in the sedum family, like autumn sedum. I do believe, roses are easy to grow, as long as you get them in good soil, and you feed them, and then you make sure you cut them down so that new flush can grow. I also think, I'm just trying to think of other plants that for somebody new, to where they won't get frustrated if it ends up dying off. The one plant that I am really finding myself attracted to is zinnias. Zinnias are easy to grow, and they come in bright, beautiful colors. You can get the ones that will stay 12 to 18 inches tall, or you can get the ones that I had in my cut garden bed that literally got 6 foot tall. So Monica, those would be some both inside and outside plants that for a newbie to get them excited about gardening would be some of my choices for you to start with. So thanks again for that question. Like I said, to anyone, if you have any additional questions that you want to ask, go ahead to my community page, ask me, hit me up on Instagram. I'll have my link in the description. Love the questions that I had gotten. So thank you guys again, those that participated in my first Q&A. Like I said, I'm gonna do this once a month, probably with the goal the 5th of every month that I will post questions and answers. So I look forward to others participating in this. You guys take this garden journey with me. I so thank you. And if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and sharing, because it would mean a lot to me. Thanks again for visiting Inspiring Garden Corners. Have a wonderful evening.